Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of Can Do Entertainment Presents May the Force Be With Who. Now, I'm going to try something different today because of having to work last weekend. I wasn't able to go see American Assassin, so I'm going to do two reviews in one show today because today I went with my brother-in-law to go see Kingsman: The Golden Circle and American Assassin. So here we go. Kingsman: The Golden Circle, which is the sequel to Matthew Vaughn's original Kingsman movie from a couple years ago. I love that first movie. That first movie was awesome, and it, kind of hit and took everybody by surprise. And so, was wondering to see if the sequel could live up to it. And for the most part, it did. We have Iggsy returning by Taron Egerton. We've got Merlin when Mark Strong is back from the first film. There's a lot of cameo characters that return from the first film. The Charlie, the guy that was trying out to be a Kingsman and was a real douchebag, he actually comes back and is the henchman of the main villain, Poppy, who's played by Julianne Moore. And they basically attack the Kingsmen and destroy their headquarters. And so the Kingsmen got to hook up with their American counterparts, the Statesmen. And Channing Tatum plays an agent called Tequila, which if you're a Channing Tatum fan, you blink and you miss him in this movie. He's kind of in and out. The main collaborator for the Statesman in this film is Pedro Pascal, who plays Agent Whiskey. And there was all this big thing about Colin Firth returning, which was kind of like, well, how is Colin Firth going to come back in Kingsman when Samuel L. Jackson blew his head off in the first movie? Well, they do a fairly decent job explaining how that worked and how he came back. So it wasn't too terrible. Sorry, I'm moving because of the sunlight here. So, yeah. So you have all these returning characters. Roxy, the other female, the girl that ended up winning the becoming a Kingsman, she ended up being Lancelot. She returns briefly, but you got a lot of high-powered cameos. You got Jeff Bridges, who's Champagne. He's the head of the Statesman. Halle Berry is kind of like Merlin's counterpart in the Statesman. She plays Ginger Ale. She's kind of the technical person behind the Statesman. You could kind of say she's kind of the Q version from James Bond. It was a good movie. The opening fight sequence in the cab was probably one of the, kind of reminded me a lot of a Bond movie with like this opening scene where it has a little bit to do with the main plot of the movie, but then it, kind of could also be a throwaway. It was really good. The action was, pretty good. The story worked. Poppy, played by Julianne Moore, she's basically a drug lord and is upset because, she's not a Fortune 500 company like Big Tobacco or Big Alcohol. So she poisons all these different versions of all these different drugs like pot and heroin and cocaine, and tries to hold the world for ransom for the cure to, everybody that uses drugs is basically going to die because she's poisoned them. So that's kind of the mission. It's not on the lines of the Samuel L. Jackson giving away free cell phones and, blowing up everybody's head. And Sam Jackson, I felt, was more, his Valentine character was more, there was more of a presence in the first movie, whereas Poppy's there, and then she's not. And then she just kind of pops up, but really, the menace is not there that it was from the first film. It's, got a lot of action. It's got a lot of comedy. It's good to see Colin Firth back. There wasn't really a standout scene like in the first one where they had the big Freebird church murder scene, which was one of the greatest scenes in movie history. But all in all, Kingsman: The Golden Circle, it was a good time. It didn't quite meet the original, but it was still a good time in the movies. I'm gonna give it a 7. Big shock. Okay, moving on. The second movie today was American Assassin. Now, I know this one's been out for a couple of weeks, so sorry. American Assassin is basically the story of Mitch Rapp. He's played by Dylan O'Brien, who he's vacationing with his soon-to-be fiance in I think it's Spain, and they're both victimized in a terrorist attack, and his fiance dies. So he goes on this, he wants to get revenge against terrorists all over the world, and he trains in combat, trains in mixed martial arts, guns, weapons, knives, and he's finally recruited by the CIA for a special program called Orion, which the head of that is a man named Hurley, played by Michael Keaton. Now, once again, Michael Keaton is proving why he is an American institution, just like Kurt Russell. Michael Keaton was awesome in this flick as the kind of grizzled veteran, you know, almost in a Yoda-like sense to the Dylan O'Brien character about, you know, you're good, but you're not that good, and, you know, why are you doing this? Because you want revenge, you know, and, you know, everybody wants revenge. We're here to do a job and take orders. And it kind of, the plot kind of mirrors each other, because Dylan O'Brien's character, Mitch, he's out to get revenge for the murder of his girlfriend, whereas the Michael Keaton character of Hurley, he had a former student that Mitch's character reminds him of, called Ghost, who happens to turn out to be the villain, who's after some weapons-grade plutonium, and he wants to set it off near the American Sixth Fleet, and you know, basically to get revenge because he, you know, went wrong. And it's a good flick. The fight scenes are real intense, and it's got a lot of action. It's got a really good plot. I mean, it stayed together pretty good. It is the kind of flick that my old man would love. So, Master Chief, this one's for you. But once again, the strongest, you know, Dylan O'Brien, I hadn't really seen him in anything before, and he was, you know, handled it very well as being, you know, the lead in a big action movie like this. But once again, the main Michael Keaton was awesome. And anytime you can see Michael Keaton being awesome, that's, you know, worth the price of admission. And, you know, he's had a, you know, just this year alone being Vulture in the Spider-Man movie, and now being in, you know, another high-profile movie. You know, the Michael Keaton comeback, it's pretty cool, you know, because he was the first Batman. So, I'm going to give American Assassin actually a 7.5, because it just seemed like a much tighter movie, and the tension and the drama, it's a spy thriller, and it felt, you know, more real world, whereas Kingsman lives in that kind of comic book, you know, over the top James Bondish from the 70s kind of vibe. So they were both good movies. So it was, you know, fun time. 2 movies in one day. It was awesome. So 7 for Kingsman, 7.5 for American Assassin. Oh, and Taylor Kitsch plays Ghost, the villain. Sorry, I wanted to throw that in, which, you know, Taylor Kitsch kind of really hasn't had anything going on since John Carter of Mars and Battleship kind of tanked. But, you know, he was real good as, you know, Ghost, the bad guy in this film. So yeah, 7.5 for American Assassin, 7 for Kingsman, The Golden Circle. Okay, everybody that's local to Western North Carolina, come out and see the League of Fools tonight at the Fairview Tavern. And as always, you can visit League of Fools on our YouTube channel, which is League of Fools, and on our Facebook page, which is League of Fools Band. That's going to do it for now. So everybody keep on keeping on, and may the force be with who?